So last week, my neighbor, barely 23 with her first baby, she showed me this feeding app on her phone that tracks everything. I mean, everything. From which breast the baby nursed on last to exactly how many ounces of formula at 3:17 a.m. And I'm watching her scroll through these charts and graphs like she's analyzing stock portfolios. And you know what struck me? This generation of parents, they're not just feeding their babies differently, they're completely rewriting the rules. And the research backs this up in ways that shocked even me. So today, I'm walking you through the 5 revolutionary approaches Gen Z parents are using to transform baby feeding from a source of stress into something actually manageable. These 5 proven strategies are the flexibility-first method that removes guilt from feeding choices, the tech-powered tracking system that gives you data without the obsession, the community-sourced wisdom approach that filters out the noise, the evidence-based schedule that adapts to your baby, and the boundary-setting technique that protects your sanity from feeding critics. The first thing you should do is embrace what I call the flexibility-first feeding approach. You see, researchers at the 2024 State of Feeding report found something remarkable. 87% of parents ended up using a combination of breastfeeding, pumping, and formula, even though most started with rigid plans. And here's where it gets interesting. Parents who stayed flexible with their feeding methods actually sustained breastfeeding longer than those who tried to stick to exclusive breastfeeding. I remember working with this young mom. She was maybe 24, and she came to me in tears because she wasn't producing enough milk. She'd been told by 3 different Facebook groups that supplementing with formula meant she was failing. But when we looked at the actual research from pediatric nutritionist Dr. Amna Hussein, it showed that combination feeding, that beautiful dance between breast and bottle, it doesn't confuse babies like old myths claimed. It actually extends most parents' breastfeeding journeys. Here's what you do. Start by releasing the all-or-nothing mentality. Create what I call a feeding toolkit. Have your pump ready, keep formula on hand even if you're breastfeeding, and most importantly, give yourself permission to use whatever tool serves you and your baby best in that moment. Because flexibility isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Next, you need to harness technology without becoming its prisoner. Now listen, Gen Z parents are spending an average of 2 hours and 34 minutes on social media daily, according to recent studies, and they're using that time differently than we ever did. They're not just scrolling, they're researching, tracking, and connecting. But here's the twist. The successful ones, they use tech as a tool, not a master. Set up one good tracking app, but limit yourself to checking it 3 times a day. Use it to spot patterns, not to obsess over every ounce. One mom I worked with discovered through her app that her baby naturally wanted to cluster feed every evening around 6 p.m. Instead of fighting it, she embraced it, set up her feeding station with snacks, water, and her tablet, and turned what used to be her most stressful hour into her favorite Netflix time with baby. The third strategy is to tap into community wisdom while filtering out the chaos. A 2024 Morning Consult study found that Gen Z parents are 5 times more likely to get parenting advice from social media than older generations. But here's what separates the thrivers from the survivors. They know how to filter. Join 3 groups maximum, 1 local, 1 topic-specific, and 1 general support. But here's the crucial part. Never ask for advice after 10 p.m. when anxiety is high and judgment is low. And when you do ask questions, be specific. Instead of, help, my baby won't latch. Try, my 3-week-old pulls away after 2 minutes on the left side. Anyone experience this? I watched a group of Gen Z moms in my community create their own WhatsApp group with one beautiful rule. No unsolicited advice, only shared experiences. They'd post things like, "Today I gave formula for the first time and felt guilty for exactly 3 minutes until baby smiled." That vulnerability, that honesty, it's changing everything. Now that you understand community filtering, let's talk about the evidence-based feeding schedule that actually works. Your fourth step is to throw out rigid schedules and embrace what researchers call responsive feeding. Gen Z parents who use baby-led approaches report 42% less feeding-related stress than those following strict schedules. Here's how. Instead of feeding every 3 hours on the dot, create feeding windows. Maybe it's 2.5 to 3.5 hours during the day. Watch your baby, not the clock. One young dad told me he noticed his daughter always got hungry right when he started his Zoom meetings. Instead of stressing, he moved his meetings 30 minutes later. Simple, effective, baby-led. And about that baby-led weaning trend that's everywhere on TikTok? The research is fascinating. Babies who start solids through baby-led weaning show better appetite regulation and less food fussiness later. But, and this is important, you don't have to go all in. Many Gen Z parents are doing combination weaning, offering both purees and finger foods. It's that flexibility theme again. I saved the most powerful for last because this one changes everything. Setting boundaries with feeding critics. You need to master what I call the thank you next technique. When someone questions your feeding choices, you simply say, "Thank you for caring about us. We're following our pediatrician's guidance and baby is thriving." No explanations, no justifications, no opening the door to debate. One Gen Z mom I know created a brilliant strategy. She made an Instagram story highlight called Our Feeding Journey, where she posted updates. When relatives asked questions, she'd say, "Oh, I actually covered that in my stories." It gave her control over the narrative while avoiding repetitive conversations. But here's the deeper truth. Gen Z parents aren't just changing how they feed their babies. They're changing why. They're rejecting the martyrdom, embracing the tools, and most importantly, they're proving that confident, flexible parenting creates happier families. Last month, I ran into that young neighbor again. Her baby was giggling, chunky thighs kicking, clearly thriving. She'd deleted 2 of her tracking apps, kept the one that worked, and you know what she said? "Sarah, I realized the best feeding plan is the one that keeps both me and baby happy." That wisdom at 23, that's the future of parenting right there. You see, this generation understands something profound. Perfect feeding doesn't exist, but peaceful feeding does. And when you combine flexibility with boundaries, technology with intuition, and community with confidence, you create something beautiful. You create a feeding journey that works for your family. If you're ready to dive deeper into these strategies and get week-by-week guidance tailored to your baby's age, I've created a comprehensive guide that breaks down exactly how to implement each approach. It includes feeding window charts, script templates for handling criticism, and a curated list of evidence-based resources. You can find it in the description below. Remember, feeding your baby shouldn't feel like a test you're failing. It should feel like a dance you're learning together.